Welcome back to Craftsman David and Merry Christmas. This here is a Nutcracker. A coworker gave him to me because he's got a little bit of an issue with his feet. Now this Nutcracker did in fact come with one black shoe, and a coworker asked me if I could make a second shoe for him. I thought, no problem, 10 minutes and a belt sander, and I can whittle a new one. From afar, the new shoe doesn't look too bad, but if you zoom in, the width is wrong, the height is wrong, the shape I made is not symmetric, and this one is just so perfect. I made the originals by tracing the old foot on a fresh blank. Then I cut it out at the bandsaw. Finally, I used the belt sander to finish the shaping. So even though that looks like a respectable copy from your perspective, I know I can do better. So I started thinking, how did they carve it so perfect at the factory? Did they CNC cut it? That would work. No, they didn't CNC cut it. I had an epiphany of exactly how they made this thing. This started out as a round blank of wood. They turned it on the lathe and then split it to make 2 feet. Perfect copies of each other. That's the process I'm going to replicate today. So I got a fresh walnut blank, and the first thing I'm going to do is mark out the center. Okay, step 1 is to make it round. Almost there, still have a flat spot. There we go, mostly round. Now I'll lay out where it's going to go. Mark the ends of it. And I can carry those marks around just by rotating the lathe. And I also want to mark this high spot right here. It's going to be the peak of my convex curve. And before I go any further, I'm going to move my tool rest down and take this block down a little bit. So now with the tool rest brought back over, I have my 3 marks. This is going to be the peak, and I'm going to curve the foot down to this mark and down to this mark. In order to know when to stop, I want to put a boss in here that's the same size as my final dimension. So on this side, this is 3/8 of an inch about, so I want to go 3/4 because this is only half a foot. I need to double it. And on this side, my minimum thickness is 5/8, so I want to go 1.25 on this side. So I simply set my caliper for the 1.25, I lock it, and I'll turn this until I reach that mark. Checking. Ah, perfect. Now I'll do this side. Need to go to 3/4. Perfect! Alright, and now that I have my depths correct, I can just shape the foot like it's shown. I'm just going to eyeball the shape and go down to my marks. The nice thing is, because I'm turning it, it's going to end up symmetric no matter what I do. Notice that I keep bringing the actual foot up to the tool rest so I can compare it to the profile that I'm cutting. And this is the finished turning. I think it looks pretty close. These parting cuts will help me separate the foot later. Now I've turned the speed up on the lathe and I'll sand it up. Alright, all done on the lathe. Now comes the tricky part of splitting this into 2 feet. I'm going to do it with the blank as a whole so I have something to hold on to. The nice thing is this blank was originally made from 2 boards, and there's a glue line on each end, and I can see the glue line running up the piece. So if I hold it here, I can just follow the glue line into the blade and split it. And now I'll just use a handsaw to cut this free. Two feet. And now I'll just clean these feet up here at the belt sander. In playing around with the old foot, I realized that the end of the belt sander fits this curve perfectly where the leg of the Nutcracker goes. It's going to take my foot, I'm going to grind it away on this end of the belt sander till it looks like this. I did switch out to a coarser grit so it'll go a little faster. Well, the rest of this can be taken care of with a little bit of hand sanding and polishing. These new feet look great. So much better than this old whittled one. Just to show you up close, the whittled one, very uneven. This one's nice and smooth. The underside especially tells the story. The whittled one is uneven. You can see it in the profile. The one that was done on the lathe is nice and symmetrical. Much better. Black paints well over walnut. And here's those feet the next day. Nice and black, but you can still see a little bit of wood grain, so I'll put a second coat on. Well, after 2 coats of paint, the feet look great. Now I just have to glue them down. I'm going to use hot glue again, just like they were. And after all that precision, believe it or not, I'm just going to eyeball the placement. Boy, do my new shoes look great! Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope this inspires you to fix those Christmas decorations instead of buying new ones every year. Please remember to subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and you and your family have a Merry Christmas!